looking after, I suppose, answering questions as well as possible. So you're all very welcome. Hopefully this will answer some of your questions, and as I said, we'll do a Q&A session at the end of the webinar as well. So a very, very brief introduction for those of you that don't know me. So my name is Liam, and I'm the Southeast Asia Regional Manager for UL. So I'm actually a graduate of UL, studied Politics and International Relations, and my main role here is student support for Southeast Asia students considering studying at UL. So helping, I suppose, pre-arrival students working on orientation and information sharing. So this is my main role. UL then obviously is a public university in Ireland, ranked within the top 100 universities in the world, and ranked number 3 in Europe for career preparation and graduate employability. So I think most of you are aware of the university. There is some I know that have just dialed in from the Vietnamese Education in Ireland Vietnam page. So just to give you a brief introduction on that. So I suppose the first thing to mention, which is obviously the biggest priority, is to make sure everyone is safe. Everyone is doing as much as possible to limit the impact of the virus. I do hope that that you and your family and friends are all safe and well. It is an unprecedented time. You know, we're facing a challenge across the globe, and we just want to make sure that everyone is doing okay. So that is the biggest priority for everyone involved. I suppose this is kind of an information sharing session, but you know, the real priority obviously is making sure that everyone is healthy. So I wanted to make sure that that's clear to all. So just to give you kind of an update in terms of the current situation in Ireland and in UL. So Ireland has approximately 1,000 cases at the moment. All actions that can be taken to limit the spread have been taken. So we're following the South Korea model in terms of extensive testing, physical distancing, contact tracing, and there has been quite a significant lockdown in terms of businesses closing, you know, no large gatherings, sport and all that sort of stuff has been closed down. So we're taking all precautions possible that can be taken. The UL campus has been closed for the last number of weeks, and all teaching has moved online for the rest of the semester. So all of our students, domestic and international, are all learning online. And we're working to put together examinations online as well. So the end of semester, I think we will still be examining online rather than bringing students back on campus. As I mentioned, the most businesses have closed for a few weeks to encourage the practice of physical distancing and to reduce the spread. We have no confirmed cases on campus in UL, and we have taken a huge amount of precautions to kind of make sure our student population are safe. Our communication from the President is that the UL campus is expected to reopen probably in late June to prepare for the next semester. Obviously that is dependent on how the next few months play out, but that's kind of the expectation around the modelling from other countries and so on. The first thing I want to do is to apologise to students. I know some students have contacted and there has been a slight delay in terms of application processing and I suppose admissions decisions. Our admissions team are working as normal, but they've had to move from an office-based to home-based, and our professors review each application also, and that's obviously moved from office to home as well. So it is taking slightly longer than normal. If you haven't heard back anything yet, do be patient. We are working through the list as quickly as possible. If you have concerns or want to get an update on your status, my email address will be at the end of this presentation. So if you wanted to get a specific update, I'm happy to give that. We did ask I know a number of students have been in touch around the Government of Ireland scholarship. That deadline, we've requested the HEA to extend that. So all the Irish universities have had the same moving kind of scenario, moving from office to home. So we've requested the Government of Ireland scholarship deadline to be extended, and that has been extended to April 17th as a result. So that hopefully will take some of the take some of the time pressure out of the scenario for students that are hoping to get an offer letter before applying for the GUI scholarship. So that's good news for you guys. If you have any questions on that, as I said, my email address will be at the end of the presentation. And our admissions team are working through the backlog and applications. So we're hoping to get back up to speed in the next couple of weeks. So from discussions within the university, we're working on 3 possible scenarios in terms of the planning and what's in place, and we kind of have plans for all 3 at the most positive level. So scenario A would be COVID-19 situation is cleared completely by kind of May, June 2020. Travel resumes as normal. I suppose people will still have concerns or lack of confidence in some travel scenarios and stuff like that. So there may be a slight reduction in numbers. We will lose our summer programs and so on, but there won't be any kind of major effect on the September intake. So that's probably the most positive scenario possible. Scenario B, which is probably the most likely, is that COVID-19 lingers in some countries over the summer. Not every country has kind of got through the process as fully as possible. Student mobility is more seriously affected, and some countries will have travel bans or will have a significant number of cases. So there will be scenarios there, and I'll talk through each of these scenarios. And then scenario C is that the situation continues to deteriorate and there is no September 2020 entry. And we have plans in place for that as well. So we are obviously planning probably kind of a mix of scenario A, scenario B, but we do have contingency plans in place for scenario C as well if it does happen. Hopefully it doesn't, and we all get back to normal in the next couple of months. So let me talk through those. Okay. So a couple of questions, I suppose, that have been commonly coming in. I wanted to go through, I suppose, just to answer for people, and this obviously will kind of be I suppose, commonly asked questions. So these are something that we've received maybe 2 or 3 times. So I said I wanted to answer them in a group scenario. So we've been asked by a number of students, can I extend my acceptance deposit deadline? And yes, you absolutely can. So everyone has automatically been extended now until the end of May. So for students that are querying if there was acceptance deadlines of March, April time on their offer letters, we've automatically extended everybody until the end of May. And I know I have had a couple of requests to extend till the end of June. So basically for that, you would email international@ul.ie to request a further acceptance extension. So we do understand that people want to see how the next few months play out with the situation. We understand that people want to figure out if they can travel or not. We have got approval that refunds of the acceptance deposit will be issued if COVID still prevents travel as well. So we want to work with students as much as possible. That we're not accepting, or we're not going to be holding on to acceptance deposits unrealistically if students are unable to travel. So that's the key message, is that you won't lose out on anything if COVID continues to be an issue. The other thing that we have looked at, and we're resource planning for this, is that potentially if you've paid an acceptance deposit, if you have a travel ban or if you're not happy to travel, deferral to 2021 is also possible. So we do a blanket approval of deferrals from 2020 to 2021, and that acceptance deposit will be automatically placed and will reserve your place in the program for 2021, and will also be deducted from your tuition fees for 2021 as well. So either you can get a full refund of the acceptance deposit, you can wait until May, June time to make a decision and pay the rest of your fees, or you can defer to 2021 as well. So there are kind of options for all students, and we are being as flexible as we possibly can to allow students kind of make the safest decision for them. Will I still be able to get my visa? So I suppose this is something that's quite key. So in the last couple of days, so I think on the 20th of March, INIS, so the Irish Immigration Services, have taken the decision to temporarily cease accepting new visa applications. So basically, it's around kind of embassy safety and to reduce the footfall in embassies. The situation will be continue to be reviewed, and we're hoping to kind of get an update from INIS on that in the next couple of weeks. What we're suggesting, so it's still possible to apply for an Irish visa online, but you won't be able to complete the application process by sending the documents or visiting the embassies. So what we're suggesting is that in kind of May, June time, when the student visa applications commence, if the current situation stays in place, students will basically load their online application for the visa, and then basically can complete it towards the end of the summer. But our expectation is that this should be lifted in kind of May, June time, which is the period when student visas our applications are made anyway. So at the moment, the fact that INIS have closed applications doesn't affect student application visas in any way, because you can only really apply for those from kind of the end of May time in any case. So I wanted to keep people aware of that. You will be able to apply for a visa, but you won't be able to complete the visa until this particular restriction has been lifted. But we do expect it to be lifted within the next couple of months. I hope that's clear. You can still preload your documentation as normal, and then complete it once the embassy is open again. If I can't travel in September, will I get a refund? So, for example, if your country has a travel ban, or if you're feeling unwell, or if it's not safe to travel, or whatever guidance it might be, if you're unable to travel for any reason, there will be three options for you in that instance. So we will provide a full refund of tuition fees, which will be available for students to refund. We are, as I said, we are obviously resource planning for deferrals. So where you defer your program from 2020 to 2021, that would also be an option. And then probably the most relevant is we are working on a scenario where we would do distance learning for a part of semester one. So you would do online learning for, if it's 2 or 3 weeks or 2 or 3 months, you do semester one online. And then once it's safe to do so, you would commence the program on campus, finish the program as normal, and then you would avail of the stay-back visas and so on. So we're working on that from two points of view. So the first one is we need to make sure, obviously, the infrastructure and the professors and so on in the university can provide that option online. And then the second one is that from an immigration standpoint and from a visa standpoint, that students can actually get the stay-back visa after they do part of their program online. So we want to make sure that that's provided by the immigration service before we go ahead with that option. But we would obviously look at reduced tuition costs. We would look at online examinations if required, and that one would be available to students who, if there's kind of a case by case. So if Malaysia has no cases but Vietnam has a high number of cases, the Malaysian students potentially could travel, and Vietnamese students maybe would need to do online learning for a period, and then transfer into UL afterwards. So that's kind of one of the solutions that we're planning to put in place. It's not finalized yet, but that would be kind of probably the most common sense approach, that up until such point people feel safe to travel or are able to travel, they would do online learning with the class in UL. If I can't get my final results from school, sorry, and I meant to say, if you have any questions, guys, you can post them in the chat function on any of these points, and I'll answer them basically at the end, or else if they're relevant to specific sections, I can answer questions on specific areas. So there's a chat function there in Zoom that you can log a question question on if you wish. Okay, and this is a question that has been coming in quite a bit. So if I can't get my final results from school, what do I do? So I know in Malaysia, I know the SPM results have come out, final results, and there's a couple of other scenarios where international schools have cancelled exams and things like that. So we are looking at that on a case-by-case basis. Some schools will give predicted grades as the final exam result. If you can get a transcript, a final transcript, so if you don't sit the final exam but you get a final transcript with a grade, then we can give admissions. If your final exams have been deferred to a later date, we can facilitate late arrivals and things like that. What we can't do is give admissions to students who don't have that state exam or final exam or final transcript. So it is something that it's obviously it's a government requirement at the moment that the entry requirements are met. That may change in the next couple of months, obviously depending on how things go. But at the minute, we would basically do on a case-by-case basis. We would look at if a school is willing to give a predicted grade as the final exam result. So the teachers assess the student and give them a grade, or if the exams happen at a later date. So if the exams happen in August, we can again facilitate online learning up until such point that they get the visa and can come into the program from there. So that's kind of probably one of the more difficult ones to put one answer to, because each of the schools, the universities will be slightly different, and different countries' school systems will be slightly different. But we're basically working as flexibly as possible. We will, try and accept late arrivals, accept substitute documents, and obviously then work with immigration to fast track any students who get transcripts late as well. So we've spoken to the embassies, and they're aware that there may be kind of different timings on the state exams compared to previous years. So that's something that we're all flexible and working on. One thing that crops up quite a bit about the UL offer letters. So the offer letter will say you need to have an original transcript with X, Y, and Z scores on it. You can actually bring your final transcripts with you when you travel to Ireland, so you don't need to send them. You don't need to have them, in June or July time. You can actually bring them with you to the university and get them verified during your first week. So you don't actually have to have that way before you travel. You just have to have that basically the day you travel to Ireland. Just bring those with you, and we'll verify those during orientation week. So Celine is in the call at the moment as well. So if anyone has any questions, you can post something in chat. Celine, you might answer them in chat while I'm talking, if possible, and if not, we'll catch up at the end of those as well. Thank you. Okay, this is quite a common one. So what if I can't sit IELTS? So I know IELTS exam centres, TOEFL exam centres, a lot of them are closed and probably not going to open for the next couple of months. When they do open, I'd imagine the demand is going to be exceptionally high. So we are aware of that issue, and we are looking to put in place a solution. So what we're looking to do is to get an approved online test in place of IELTS. So IELTS obviously need to go physically into a test center and sit an exam. So that's kind of the reason for a lot of these being closed, is the social distancing. A company called Duolingo run an online exam, which is an English language exam. It's being discussed at the moment as a replacement for IELTS. I actually sat the exam myself a couple of days ago. It's quite thorough. It does go through speaking, listening, reading, writing, so it's the same structure as an IELTS exam, but obviously it's all done through virtual means. So we are waiting on approval from Inish that they'll accept that in lieu of IELTS, and then we'll agree a score that needs to be achieved in the Duolingo exam. It's due to be confirmed probably in the next couple of days. but that's the solution that we're planning, that if a student wants to study, if they can't sit an IELTS exam, that they would do Duolingo instead, all online, and then they would just submit their Duolingo certificate as an equivalent to IELTS or TOEFL. So we'll have the same structure. We'll have clear benchmarks in terms of the scores that students need to do, and if there's any kind of any issues around that, it should kind of act the same as an IELTS or a TOEFL exam, but you just don't have to go in physically into a test center. Our pre-sessional English courses that run during the summer, they are currently cancelled. So the academic English programs, so students who have IELTS of less than 6.5, we would normally run pre-sessional English programs in July and August time. We are working on the basis that they won't happen during the summer. We are working on putting that content online if possible. So it will be a reduced fee. It will be done through Zoom or through an online program, and then obviously you would travel in September as the master's programs or bachelor's programs started. Can I ask, would the online program be of interest to students? I don't know. Are many students on the course planning on doing a pre-sessional academic English course? If there's anyone that would be interested in that, let's give it a second to go through. Anyone that planning, just put it into chat to say you're planning on doing pre-sessional, and if online is an option for you. Okay, so these were some of the questions. So I obviously had emailed out the invitation, and there were some students' questions that were received. So these are just a sample of some of them. Until when can we hear about the backup plan if COVID crisis continues to spread and are unable to control? So the course will start from September. We'll be informed before May, June time. Some predictions show the situation is going to ease around August, but no one is sure about this. So a very good question. So we will obviously, it's currently March. We are kind of planning for those three scenarios that I mentioned at the start of the call. We should have a decision in terms of the kind of online learning or the semester being open or not, kind of May time, and then, as I said, the student visa application only opens in May as well. So I think we'll keep people updated on the situation between now and May, but we should have, before the end of May, we should have a kind of a solid decision to say, you know, this is the way that the situation is. Our classes will be entirely on campus, our classes will be entirely online, or a mix of the two. So that would kind of be the deadline really for a decision on that. Anything later than that, as I said, is both unfair on the students, but also we would need to have quite a significant amount of lead time to be able to plan and implement that place as well. So yes, you will be informed, I suppose, on the situation. So depending on how the scenario goes over the next few months, we will kind of target the end of May as a trigger for a decision either way on the options that we've mentioned. What would the plan look like should COVID continue to spread? So as I mentioned, we will look at a kind of either a hybrid where some students are online and some students are on campus. If it continues to spread out of all control, then it would be fully online, and our classes will continue throughout the full year online, which I suppose is not ideal, but that's the current situation. I hope that doesn't happen, and that students get to kind of experience the online offline and on-campus type environment. If offline classes have to change to online classes, will tuition fee be deducted? So a very good question. My expectation is yes, so that we do have a couple of online programs already. So we have a master's in our business school in project management that's completely online. We have a number of masters in our humanities, so history and politics and so on, that are taught completely online. and they would have significantly lower tuition fees than an equivalent on-campus program. So we, as I said, we kind of look towards the end of May where we would finalize models. If part of a semester is taught online and then a student comes in, there would be a slight reduction for that. If the full program is taught online, then obviously there would be a tuition fee reduction expected. So I think our online campus, our on-campus project management program is about 14,000, and then our online project management program is about 7,000 or 8,000. So it's about a 50% reduction in terms of fees. But obviously that would be communicated at the end of May in terms of how that would be calculated and communicated. Shall we wait for UL instructions to provide visa application, tuition fee payment, flight booking, accommodation searching? So as I said, the visa application, there's no benefit to making an application now. The student visa applications for Ireland only really open kind of towards the end of May, so that would be the trigger for kind of making the visa application. I would urge all students and agents to be kind of recommending collecting the documents and collecting the financial kind of statements and documentation that's needed at the moment. So that's going to be required anyway. But there's no requirement on you to send in your visa application now. You know, I would kind of wait until the end of May before submitting that. I wouldn't wait for our instructions. We will send out kind of a communication, as I said, towards the end of May around the models that would be available. So that might be a good kind of trigger for you to start the visa application if we give the all clear and say, you know, the numbers are reducing and semester will go ahead in September as possible. Then that would be kind of a green light really to go ahead with that. The tuition fee payment doesn't need to be made until just before you start the visa application. So with tuition fees, you would pay the tuition fees. We would then provide the visa support letter back to students, and then you can start the visa application. So if you make a decision, okay, I'm going to come to campus in Limerick, you would pay the tuition fees first. We would then issue the visa support letter, and then you make the visa application at that stage. So you don't really need to pay the fees before starting the whole process. Flight booking, obviously, it can be later in the summer. So once you get your visa back, so it takes about 6 to 8 weeks. So if you apply in late May, June, July, you make your flight booking in July time. And then accommodation searching, we do have on-campus accommodation that is available. You can book that and reserve it. You would reserve it with it's a €350 deposit, which will hold your space on campus. So me personally, I would recommend booking on-campus accommodation if you're serious about coming to Limerick. If you can book on-campus accommodation, pay the €350 deposit. You will get that refunded if you cannot travel because of COVID as well. So that has been approved. So you can have on-campus accommodation booked now, tomorrow, if you're interested, and you can have that kind of waiting for you up until such point as you pay the rent then per semester. So I would personally, if it was me traveling, I would book the accommodation today. I would wait until May until seeing what the scenario would be. If we're given the all clear, I would pay the tuition fees, get the visa support letter, make my visa application end of May, and then book my flight once I get my visa back in July. I hope that's kind of clear in terms of that's a best case scenario timeline, but that's hopefully what will happen for majority of students. Due to COVID, Irish Embassy in Vietnam has stopped issuing new visas. So yeah, so that's the slide I mentioned earlier, where they won't have students come in or drop into the embassy. So what I would suggest is starting the application process online in May, and then basically you would process in June, July time. So you finish off the application in June. It means in September, the possibility that may not arrive in September, yes. So we have approval then from our deans that late arrivals will be facilitated. So if there's delays in visas, or if students have late arrivals because of visas, we can facilitate that. So you'll do some of your classes in September online, and then we'll transfer into the program on campus then once you receive your visa. So that's been approved, and we do understand that we need to be as flexible as possible with students on that. So there's no issues around that. So we do understand that there will be slight delays on visa process, but I don't think any significant ones. So just a brief summary before we get into the Q&A. So we are working at the moment that September intake will happen as normal. We will keep everyone updated if the situation changes. We're basically developing contingency plans for scenario A, scenario B, scenario C, and we will kind of keep people updated in terms of which one is most likely. We pledge to work with each student to make sure that their plan can happen for 2020. If it can't happen for 2020, we will be flexible. We'll offer deferrals, we'll offer refunds, we'll offer online learning and flexible learning options as well. When we know more, we will keep you updated, and we would urge everybody to stay safe and stay indoors if possible. So we'll go into questions now, and that's my email address. If anyone has any particular updates that they want, they can send a message to liam.p.ryan@ul.ie. So I'll leave that up just for a sec before we get into the questions. Okay. We got a lot of people on. Okay, so I'm just going to look at the chat function just a sec to see if there's some questions here. Okay, so hi, I'm applying for a master's course at UL as Government of Ireland postgraduate scholarship as a deadline to submit an offer mid-April. What are the expected application handling period I can expect in light of recent events? Thank you. So we are working through our applications as normal. As I said, we've requested to the GOI, so the Government of Ireland Scholarship Programme, to delay their deadline. So it was initially the 27th of March. That's been pushed back to the 17th of April. We do expect our applications to be around 2 to 3 weeks for processing. So from when you submit your application, it's taking about 2 to 3 weeks now for processing in terms of a master's application. So if it's taking longer than that, I would suggest that you send me an email directly. So you have my email address from the slide here. Send me a direct email, but it's about 2 to 3 weeks. There can be slightly longer times if you're called for an interview or if the professor requests any specific information. But we are working, and we're aware that deadline is in place. We're trying to make sure that anyone who's applying for GOI does get their offer letter back as quickly as possible. Hopefully that answers your question. So Chloe, I'm currently doing my A-levels. They've recently cancelled all international exams. My grades will then be given based on my previous assessments. If I don't meet the grades mentioned in my conditional offer letter, will the university automatically reject my application? So no, so basically, and I know the A-levels have done that. So if you have got an offer letter based on your predicted grades, and then your grades are the final grades that are given to you, as long as they are over the minimum entry requirements for the program, then you will basically automatically continue with your offer. So, for example, most of our programs are BBC or BCC. So as long as you have your grades given, that would be fine. So realistically, your offer is going to be based on your current grades anyway. So most students, if their predicted grades are equal to their the grades that have been given by the teachers, then that will make sure that their offer will continue. If, for example, if the grades drop slightly, so if your teachers give you slightly lower grades than their predicted grades, that's still okay. So we will basically review those on a case-by-case basis. It goes into what's called clearing, and basically our professors will review the A-levels transcript and make a decision based on that. So most students, you know, as long as you're not falling very, very significantly down from your predicted grade letter, most students will have no problems, and you know, the chances of being automatically rejected are very, very low. If you have specific questions or you want to talk about your own individual grades, Chloe, you can send me a direct email, and I can review your case in a little bit more detail as well. Sonia, I would like to know, how do I ensure my housemates are safe to live with, or what measures are taken by UL to ensure that? Okay, so that's a good question. So if you're living on campus, you will normally be living in 2, 4, 6, or 8 bedroom apartments. So you have you'll basically have a private bedroom, a private bathroom, and a private study area, and then you'll have a shared kitchen and living space then with other students. In terms of kind of how you would ensure housemates are safe, so we would obviously only, you know, we would follow the HSE and the Department of Foreign Affairs guidelines in terms of travel, inbound travel into Ireland. So if there's a country that's very much at risk, so I know Italy, I know China, and a couple of other countries have had complete travel bans. So we would basically have to follow that guidance. You know, I think most people are in September are going to have concerns about that, and it's something that we probably would need to put a plan in place for. I know some areas and some scenarios have done kind of measurement, a temperature measurement when you come into the country, or things like that as well, so that there may be testing at the borders to make sure that people that are traveling cross borders aren't kind of infecting people. In terms of individual housemates, I don't have an answer on that one at the moment. It's obviously something that will be reviewed, but it's something that we are very much aware of, and people obviously living in close proximity, we need to make sure that people are as safe as possible. So there will be steps taken on that. There's nothing at the moment because obviously all of our students are off campus, but I think once we come back on campus, there will be measures to guarantee that, Sonia. So it's I don't have a concrete answer for you, but I would expect that there would be DFA, so Department of Foreign Affairs, and the health service in Ireland would have guidelines in terms of how to manage that once we get back to a semblance of normality. Fong, please send me the info and updates you have to me at Education Ireland. Yes, I will. I'll kind of keep you guys in the loop on that. CK, will there be an option for student choose for online learning for first semester in September if not comfortable to travel? Yes, so we're developing that at the moment. So our current students are learning second semester online at the moment and are doing the exams. We are expecting to have an option for online learning for semester 1 as well. So basically, ideally, everyone would be on campus, but yes, we're expecting to have an option for online learning for semester 1. So if people aren't comfortable to travel, or if there's travel bans in certain areas, we would expect to have an online learning option in place for students as well. And I think that's the questions. Does anyone else have any questions, queries, doubts, concerns, messages of hope? Anything that they want to share? As I know, in Western countries, it may not be practiced to wear a face mask. Can I wear a face mask during lectures? Would it be conflict to their practice? That's absolutely no issue at all. So it hasn't been something that's been particularly common in Western countries, but it is becoming more common. So there would be no lecturer that would have any issue with that. We've seen people walking around more and more commonly now with face masks. And you know, absolutely not. It's not a conflict to any kind of issues. You know, no lecturer would have any issues with that. So if you were here and you wanted to wear face masks to lectures, absolutely no problem at all. Any other questions, guys?
Actually, I have chatted a question before the question of Sonia.
Okay.
So check.
Oh, sorry. Hangvu, right? Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Hi, Liam. Thank you for the presentation. I've inquired, received an extension for my offer letter, which is June 16th. It stated that will not hold my place in the program. So what if I accept the offer, which is close to the deadline, and you will get back to me that the course has been filled up? So you've received an extension for your offer letter, but it stated that this will not hold my place in the program. I'm not. So if your acceptance, if your offer acceptance has been extended, then that means that your course space has been held. So the reason for that is basically all of our master's programs only have a capped class size. So we take only about 20 to 30 students per program onto that course. So if we have 20 or 30 students who are offered and accepted, then the course will completely close. But we do also then hold spaces for students who have been offered and haven't accepted. So if your acceptance has been extended to June 16th, then you'll be one of those students who have been offered, haven't accepted, but it will hold your space until June 16th. If you come back and say, I don't want to travel, or I don't want to take the space in the program, then your space will go back into circulation. But if you haven't communicated with us, or if you continue to hold your space until June 16th, that will reserve your space until that date. If after that date you haven't communicated, or if you haven't paid the acceptance deposit, it will then open back up for students to apply. But the extension for your offer acceptance is that exact thing. So you basically have your space reserved until June 16th. If you pay the acceptance deposit before that, that guarantees your space. If you don't, then on June 16th, basically, we'll put the space back out for students to apply for. I hope is that clear, Hank?
Yes, thank you so much.
No problem at all. Okay, any further questions? We'll just give a couple more minutes and we'll go from there. Some Vietnamese students apply for GOI, have to pay a deposit to get an offer letter from HEIs. In case they fail for applying for the scholarship, would it be possible for the deposit to be refunded? So for UL, I'm not sure what the case would be with other universities. So for us, as long as you apply, so if you apply to the program, you'll be assessed and you'll get an offer letter back. So you don't have to pay a deposit to get the offer letter. So I don't know what other universities are doing in terms of deposit refunds for that. But if you apply to UL, basically you pay a very small application fee, which is just kind of for processing. But you don't have to pay a deposit to get your offer letter. You'll get a full offer letter. If you meet the entry requirements, you'll get an offer letter for that program immediately. So I can't comment for other universities in terms of the deposit refunds, unfortunately, but I would imagine that they should be able to do that. But I don't want to say, I suppose, put words in my colleagues' mouths. So we need to contact the university that you've applied for to get confirmation of that. Hope that's okay, Fong. Okay, any other questions? We've had a great turnout. So 30 or so students are colleagues on board. So I might do more of these if we can get particular topics. Okay, Tanu. I've submitted the visa application online. Documents are well prepared. However, as you've mentioned about the embassy, it doesn't allow the students to submit the documents at the moment. So if I submit those documents in May, that means some of my documents will be outdated at that time. What should I do about that? It seems like I have to do the whole process again. Is that correct? No. So one of the things that the embassies have confirmed is that any applications that have been submitted online will stay current. So if you've submitted your visa application online, but you can't complete the visa application, basically they will put that in kind of hold or in stasis up until such point that you can complete it, and then it will be able to be completed then quite quickly after that. So you don't need to start the whole process again. So you basically put all your documents up online onto the system. They have received those, and they've confirmed that basically any applications that have been received online won't kind of go out of date within the period that the visas aren't being processed. So no, you don't have to submit online. So just keep an eye on the embassy website and see. We'll obviously communicate once that's open again, but keep an eye on the embassy website, and then you should be able to contact them back if there's any issues, or if there's any kind of requests for further documents or reissue documents. If you contact me, and I can contact the embassy directly to clarify that as well. But no, we've had communication from the Department of Justice that the stuff that's been submitted online will stay current. It doesn't need to be resubmitted. Hope that answers your question, Tannen. Okay, so last question, if anyone wants to get in. Or do you have anything to add, Celine?
No, I don't have.
Okay,
yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so thank you very much, guys. As I said, I'll share the presentation slides. I've recorded the session as well, so I'll put that up online and share a YouTube clip or something like that. We're all in the same boat, unfortunately. So we're trying to make sure that we're all kind of as informed as possible. I will do this probably in another couple of weeks, just to kind of get an update. And if anyone has any questions or doubts or queries, feel free to send them through to me, and we'll try and answer them as best as possible. And I hope you all stay safe, stay indoors, social distancing, and we'll beat this thing in the next couple of months.
Stay safe, guys.
See you guys. Bye bye.
See ya.